All right, it's time to talk about the wide receivers. Let's at least get the identification of these players on the table for you so you understand why we call them what we do and what they're really called. The X receiver, and you'll hear that term a lot, X receiver is the receiver on the line of scrimmage. He typically will be on the weak side, opposite the tight end, and we'll talk to you more about this at the board. He's the big feature player. Think Calvin Johnson. He's a player that's going to have to deal with press coverage because by being on the line of scrimmage and not a threat to go in motion, they're going to bring their cornerbacks up there and try to get in his face. He's the premier guy, Calvin Johnson. The Z receiver. Stay in the alphabet with me now. Z receiver usually is going to go with the tight end. We'll talk about motion and things he does later. He's off the line of scrimmage. He's a player that will go in motion. He's a guy that can usually run the reverse. He's a guy that's going to work in two-man patterns with the tight end. Think Anquan Bolden. Short route receiver, catch the ball, break a tackle, make a play. Z receiver. The Y receiver is the tight end. Why do we call him a tight end? No pun intended. I have no idea. But we've called him the Y since the history of the game. The Y receiver is the tight end. Now, I get asked this question a lot from people who read the book. If he moves his position or goes in motion, is he still the Y? If he's identified in the pre-snap as the Y, that will tell the Sam linebacker, the strong safety, how to line up. He's the Y receiver. He can be in a slot sometimes. He can be off the line of scrimmage in short motion. Sometimes we'll call him an H-back. He's never called the H-back if there's one tight end in the game. The Y is the one single tight end. If we bring a second guy in, he could become the H-back. And then we have the slot receiver. Now, really should be considered a starter. Most of you, I'm sure, think of him as, a backup, a third player, a third guy that comes in. Study how many people are in personnels with three wides. That personnel group has become the premier personnel group in the NFL. The slot receiver, coded sometimes for computer's sake as the A receiver, is called the slot. And I'll talk to you now. I'll get to the board. I'll show you how they line up. We'll talk about some of the things they do from their alignments. Okay, X receiver, opposite the tight end, on the line of scrimmage. Usually your premier receiver. Terrell Owens was this for a long time. Corner's going to come over a lot of times and threaten his release. He knows he can't go in motion. The safety usually plays over to the top to him. They're worried about these great receivers. Calvin Johnson rarely sees coverage like that. He always sees something like this. And if you have a true number one at X, many, many things will open up for you. Take it from me, there's 32 teams in the NFL. There are not 16 true number one X receivers. Everyone lines someone up out here. Not everyone has a premier guy. Let's go to the other side. Let's talk about the Z. Remember what I told you about the Z? Off the line of scrimmage, usually works with the tight end. He's a guy, because he's here, can come in motion. He's a guy that can run the reverse. He's a guy that's in a complementary receiver route. If they keep taking Calvin Johnson away, they're going to come back in Detroit to Nate Burleson, who plays the Z. Here's the Y receiver, the tight end. In this classic, typical formation, he's in here, easy to see. If he shifts to here and goes in motion this way, he's still the Y. If he shifts to here and goes in motion that way, he's still the Y. He's the tight end. He's the Y receiver. Now, I talked to you already about three wide receiver sets. Substitution, take the fullback out of the game. Put a third wide receiver in the game. Off the line of scrimmage, he's called the slot or A. All right? When you're thinking about this player, you're thinking Wes Welker. You're talking about a guy, and this is how the New England Patriots did it with Welker and Randy Moss forever. He's on the line of scrimmage. He's off the line of scrimmage. Wes Welker was great at reading, what did you do to Randy Moss? If Randy Moss released like this, and you pushed with the corner, and the safety got over the top, you were telling Wes Welker that outside backer, whether zone or man, has got him. Wes Welker ran a lot of these called little pivot routes. And now as Tom Brady would step back to throw, he'd like to throw to Randy Moss, but if he can, he's coming back to a slot receiver. If you were tricky and brought the corner down late, and all of a sudden he had to come off, now he's working backside. So every good quarterback has got to read through the receivers, but every quarterback thinks of these guys as X, Y, Z, slot A. Okay, it's time to talk about those receivers and how they beat coverage. We've talked about this a lot already, in that the receiver is going to hear a play in the huddle. that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to run that to line of scrimmage. And a lot of times we're in option route, what we call, you'll hear this term a lot, choice routes. I love the people in the media at games. They'll tell you what it does. He's running a choice route, but they don't tell you what the choice route was, and they obviously never tell you what the choices were. I'm going to tell you what the choices are. I'm going to show you first with a three-step drop from a quarterback. If an ex-receiver has got a situation on his hands where he's got to make a choice, what he's going to do. So let's get to the board. Let's talk about reading a defense and making some choices for the receiver. Okay, I'm the ex-receiver. I'm sitting over here. The quarterback in the huddle's called for a three-step drop. 1, 2, 3, throw the ball. All right? And he's called for a max protect. So both backs are going to stay in, and they're going to be in protection. Well, by having two backs in the backfield, we've already predicted that the safeties have to defend the run. It's 1st and 10. We're anticipating a safety down because of the two-back set. Okay, we're going to take advantage of that in the passing game with a choice route to the ex-receiver, and all that ex-receiver knows is, I got a quarterback who's taking a three-step drop. Here are the rules on a choice route. If the quarterback's taking 3 steps, I'm taking 6 steps. I'm the ex-receiver, and on the 6th step, I've made my decision what's going to happen. I'm getting the ball. So if I look at this coverage before the snap, and that corner happens to be right there, pre-snap read, something we've talked about. What am I going to decide? Oh, I've got a quick inside slant route? Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. The post-snap, he backs up and he bails out. Safety comes in. Safety goes over the top. Now I got to run a choice route. So here are my choices. To time up, remember, 3 steps from the quarterback, 6 steps for me to time this thing up perfect. I have these choices. I can run a deep route. Would I run a deep route against a corner that's backing off? No, I wouldn't. I can run a stop route. Ooh, I like that route. Here's a route that on 6 steps, the corner still's backpedaling. I've got a wide open situation. He's going to throw me the ball. What if on the snap of the ball, he gets way inside of me? I have a choice to run an out right there. What if he stays and squats? And a lot of teams do this against choice route teams. They go, hey, corners, here's what's going to happen. They're a 3-step drop team. You sit at a 6-step area. It's about 6, 7 yards down the field. Just sit in there. Make his choice really difficult to make. When he sits in there like that, a lot of times we're going to come right across the field. Where is he on leverage? Think of what side he's on. If he's on my outside, I'm running inside. If he's on my inside, I'm running outside. If he's off, I'm stopping. If he stays up in the press, I'm getting by him as fast as I can. Choice routes. It happens all the time. The receivers on the other side know they're not timed up with the 3-step drop. They know over here that if the quarterback comes off that choice route, he's going to come to me, but he's not coming to me on his 3-step drop. They're going to operate like they're in 5-step drop lane because they know they're not the first read. So if he's the number 2 read and he's on a choice route, he's going to come down in here. He doesn't want to interfere with him. He's got choices to make. That strong safety came up here to stop the run. He's going to take himself down to a big curl route. He's going to release up here, and he's going to know what? Oh, they're not coming to me on the 3. They're coming to him on the 5. I got to treat mine like 7-step drop. If I'm going too fast, I'll slow down. 3-step drop, 6-step decision. Because I'm the 2nd read, I treat it like it's a 5-step drop, 10-step decision. And because I know he won't come to me to 3rd, it's a 14-step decision. So I'm going to drive and run the big deep out at 20 yards, which is a 14-yard stem. There's a 10-step stem, and there's a 6-step stem. Those are choice routes. That's what happens in the passing game, and the good teams understand how to do it. All right, time to talk about tight ends. Man, is this an evolving position. Most of you watching the game realize that. It goes back to Shannon Sharpe, going into the Hall of Fame this summer, and for good reason. He proved to everybody an athletic, move tight end, a guy that was semi-wide receiver, was going to cause more problems than a 270-pound guy that really was a tackle with an 80 number on his shirt. And a lot of teams have followed suit. Shannon Sharpe forced you to have matchup problems, and most of us were drafting safeties that could stop the run. One would stop the run, strong safety. One would stop the deep middle, free safety, and you had problems when you played against Shannon Sharpe, and now you have problems with about half the teams in the league because of Mr. Sharpe. Let's talk about Tony Gonzalez. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame as well. What did the Kansas City Chiefs do with Tony Gonzalez that made our lives miserable? They flexed him. They moved him out. And as soon as they moved him out, they gave the easiest read in the world to the quarterbacks about what your intentions were on defense. Did you walk the linebacker out there? Oh, thank you very much. We're going to run the ball right in here off tackle in front of where you are. Did you leave the linebacker inside and tell the strong safety? That guy was really drafted to do what? Tackle. Now you put him on an island. When they found out that that happened, they realized that the guys like Gonzalez could beat these strong safeties all day. So now we have what Jeff Fisher talks about, this desire to get safeties that are really corners. They hold up against the pass, they break down against the run. A lot more injuries at safety right now. So Gonzalez opens up the passing game and the running game when in Kansas City. Priest Holmes scores almost 30 touchdowns. They get on the goal line in the red zone, and they simply go to the line of scrimmage, and they ask you, how are you going to handle Tony Gonzalez? They see a safety on him, and they see the outside linebacker, because he can beat that safety, walking halfway out. As they did that to Kansas City ran the power game the other way, and they couldn't stop it. That is what's gone on. Everyone is trying to duplicate that in the National Football League. Now, coming into the league, we have another thoroughbred athlete joining the tight end group. Think about Jimmy Graham down in New Orleans, Jordan Cameron now entering the league, just coming out of USC. What are those guys? They're college basketball players. They're following Antonio Gates. They aren't real football players. Both those guys, Jordan and our friend Jimmy Graham, have only started one college game. Graham is already penciled in as the starter in 2011 because they taught him the wide choice game. I'm going to the board and show you a couple of things the tight end does, where he lines up, how he's become such a factor. And you think of him as a big-time receiver, but he's opened up the running game. He can be in line. And what does that mean? He's in the old traditional spot right here. Doesn't mean he's just a run blocker. He can run a lot of routes from there. He can be on the move. Get him here, shift him off the line of scrimmage, move this wide receiver up to the line of scrimmage, and now simply change direction. Why would we do that? We want to go against the other safety. We're going to make you give us a chance to go against the safety you want. He can be an H-back or a slot. He can move out here and put himself right in a slot and line up. What happens now? Okay, the free safety or the strong safety comes over on him. We know there's a triangle in defense. They're going to get a lot of route choices for that. And on some teams that are very creative, they can bring him into the backfield as an extra back and land up in a three-back set like this if you happen to have a fullback in the game. A lot of times they'll use him as a fullback when they have a three-wide receiver set. Why would they do that? Here they are, three wides. You call nickel defense. You take someone out of the game, you put a nickel into the game, you have one less linebacker in the football game, we'll take him off for a second, and now they see the opportunity to run the ball. But they'd like to run the ball over here. So they go shift, and they bring him in motion, and they land him, making him a fullback. So the tight end can be a fullback, he can be in the slot, he can be on the move, he can be in line. But at the end of the day, what we've really done with these guys is made them great receivers to go along with their run skills. Here's another option you're going to see a lot of in 2011. You're going to see teams bring these receivers over and put three wide receivers on one side. After they see how you set your coverage, there's your corner, there's your nickel, there's your free safety, you go to the deep middle. This corner's sitting right here like this. He's 5'9". They're going to yell shift. They're going to move the tight end out opposite the three-man surface. They now have a matchup against a 5'9" corner. Imagine how this works. You can't do this to Antonio Gates. You can't do this to Tony Gonzalez. So what do? They're so scared they shift the thing back like this. Now what happens? You open up the three wide receivers. Okay, you want to flex and move this guy out? We've talked about that before. The quarterback has a read. Three receivers over here. If you only have three defenders, we're throwing here. If you put two over here, guess what? We're going to run the football. The wide receiver, the tight end, if he's got athletic skills, if he's a vertical threat, you've caused so many problems for these defenses in the National Football League. Look for everybody to get one. The mechanics of the catch. Now, as a fan in the stands, a guy at home watching TV, you should know why a player dropped the football. Do you know that Terrell Owens dropped 31 balls in the last 3 years? Chad Ochocinco's dropped 20. If you look at those throws on a reel, all those drops in a row, after this little demonstration, hopefully you'll understand why they dropped the ball. The mechanics of catching a ball are 4 phases in my mind. Extend your hands, catch the ball, use your arms as a shock absorber, bring the ball in, tuck it, dip your shoulder, assume a defender. In the National Football League, you are rarely open. Turn and run. Extend, catch, turn and run. Extend, catch, tuck, turn and run. Those are the mechanics of the catch. You know, I look at our friend Braylon Edwards. He was in Cleveland. He dropped 16 balls in 2008. They got rid of him. He's dropped 7 balls as a New York Jet. He's improved in this area. So when you're watching the catch itself, a couple things you want to always understand. You want to see those hands away from the body. You want to see the thumbs together. If the ball is from his waist anywhere over his head to the other side, you want to see the thumbs together. If you don't see that, you know he's in mechanical trouble already. The ball's under his waist, you want to see the thumbs apart. If you don't see that, mechanical trouble once again. As we see the extension for the ball, the receiver needs to assume there's going to be a defender stripping the ball. His elbows, his arms are the shock absorbers to help him catch the ball. While this whole process is going on, phase 1, extend the hands. Phase 2, snatch the football. Your eyes never leave the ball. And you watch it, bring it in. If you ever watch Jerry Rice, I wish we had a video of Jerry. Jerry would catch 200-300 balls in pregame, and he'd watch every ball come in. Make sure during the tuck phase that you watch your receiver bringing the ball in. Many of Terrell Owens' drops were this: not looking the ball in and not securing the ball and dropping the shoulder. So, mechanics of the game, one more time. Extend, catch, tuck, turn. You're watching the game, you see a drop, jump on the phase you know he